equipment's another one. Heaps of different ways you can go about that. I have used in the past years just like a wee burner with a gas canister. I've also got your MSR burners which burn off white spirits, which I also have one of those somewhere in here. But yeah, whichever way you do it, I would definitely recommend starting with like a wee burner like this. You can get them for like $30. And definitely bring a burner. I know a lot of people just live off granola bars, but it's really nice to have warm food when you get to a hut. Just cups of tea and all that's always good. So yeah, take a burner. Take at least like a fork and a spoon. Knife is not that necessary in terms of like a bread knife, but take a pocket knife and then you've got your like 3 things. And I tend to always take like I've got like a dog bowl or something. So it's like a plate bowl, and these are pretty good, but a bowl's also just fine. And then a billy is my other like big recommendation. You can pick these up for like $5 from secondhand shops, and you can just cook all your stuff in one, like do one pot meals where you just chuck it all in there, and then you can like boil water on it. You can do everything with a billy. It's really useful, so definitely would recommend that. And what else have we got? Hiking poles is like another optional thing if you've got bad knees or whatever. Take those, but if not, then just don't worry. Spare thermals, obviously. Survival kit. I have also made my own survival kit. That's something I would urge you to do. When your bike gets a flat tire, keep it in a tube and cut it into pieces and take it. I know like I shouldn't be going, oh, let's go burn rubber, but if you're legitimately lost and you need to light a fire, like rubber's a really good thing to burn. So take a bit of rubber so that if shit hits the fan, you can always start a fire pretty quickly, especially if you've got wet material. And I always take candles as well, which is always good, as well as 2 lighting devices tends to be the recommendation, so a lighter and matches, so that if one's not working, you've got your backup. And then I've also got like a little glow stick thing, which is called a safety light, which is kind of a bit over the top, but a friend gave it to me, so that's like now in my survival kit. Yeah, a small towel is always good too if you want to have a little swim. Woolen socks is definitely like very important. It'll help with like preventing blisters and things like that. If you just use little cotton socks, they're not going to give you much protection, and you'll also probably find that they'll start to fall down in your boots, which is not ideal. If you do have major issues with blisters, it's actually really good to wear 2 layers, so wear like a thin sock and then a light thick sock over top, and that can help with that. And there's heaps of other ways to go about if you have issues with blisters, but yeah, just Google those and find what works for you. Yeah, underwear, personal hygiene, is all fairly obvious. And sleeping bag, again, like up to you really what you have. I've got a down sleeping bag and I love it. It's great, lightweight, really warm, but obviously it's all dependent on where you're going and what you're doing. So if you're doing a tramp into an area where it's going to be warmer, then you're probably not going to necessarily need a down sleeping bag. You could get away with a small synthetic one. And a bed mat is always good, even if you are planning on staying in the huts. I would definitely recommend to take one if you have one, because it's not a lot of weight and it can be really good if the hut ends up being full. I stupidly forgot one when we did a tramp around Taranaki on Easter weekend, and we ended up having to sleep on a wooden deck. And it was awful, like we didn't get any sleep, and so I definitely after that will never forget one of those. And then again, tent or hut tickets if they are what you require. A tent's another like thing you can take if you're going into an area that you think is going to be real busy and you're not sure you're going to get the hut, but the bed mat's the alternative lighter weight option to guarantee yourself somewhere to sleep. So yeah, I think that's all. Is that my last slide?
I think so.
Is that my last slide? I think so. Yeah, that's me. So yeah, hopefully, I know I kind of just rushed through that all, but yeah, you've got the list there, so hopefully if you've got any questions, just come and talk to me afterwards or ask me now. But hopefully you knew most of that already, but yeah, it's always good to just kind of remind yourself what you need and make sure that if there's anything on there that you really want, that you put on your Christmas wish list and get your parents to buy it for you. So it's pretty much how I've gotten most of my gear. So yeah, that's me. Thanks for listening. Emily, I'll pass it to you. Oh yeah, in case you haven't already, like dig into the biscuits, by the way.
Thanks, Stacey. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Emily. I'm the chief guide, so that means I have to do a lot of the health and safety stuff. So, some of it's sort of boring, but it's still really, really important. So yeah, it's not just, so it's kind of aimed at both committee members, but at everyone. So like you don't have to be a committee member to run a trip. If you have a cool idea, come see us and we can help you make it happen. So, yeah, leading a trip, planning is one of the most important things. So you've got to figure out what you're going to do. So there's heaps of resources available, like I have a whole ton of things. So if you need something, come ask me, I can probably find it. And also all the committee members and other club members have a lot of experience between them on various things. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. I guess one of the main points of the evening is, for me, is going to be about the outdoor safety code. So that's this thing. So I think I've got a pamphlet for everyone. It's kind of got some other stuff about boating and swimming on it, but yeah, if you want to take one. So yeah, when you're planning a trip, we have from UAC, we have a trip leaders checklist, which is this piece of paper. If you want one, come see me afterwards. And so basically that kind of asks you like to think about what you're going to do. So are you going to go run a mountain biking trip, a tramping trip? Are you going skiing or kayaking or rock climbing? Or you've got to decide what you want to do. Next thing is, where are you going to do it? You've got to think of like, you're going to need maps, navigation, just got to plan ahead so you know kind of where you're going and what you're going to do. Need to think of the equipment that's needed, so like do you need to hire gear? So for example, for a rock climbing trip, you could hire gear from UAC, as well as stuff like tramping packs for a tramping trip. Also with what is needed, like do you need to book the UAC hut? If it's going to be a ski trip, something along those lines, or other accommodation. Really important thing is who is going. So you got to consider, do you as the leader of the trip have the skills and experience to lead the trip? And if so, who can you find to help you if you don't? You got to think of the number of people you're going to take on your trip, like what's appropriate, like is it a real easy tramping trip that you can take lots of people on? Or is it a really specialised trip like a kayaking trip where it's got limited numbers? And as part of the people, as Stacey's already kind of mentioned, you've got to think about everyone's experience and fitness. So the people on your trip, you've got to consider their ability and what they're capable of. And then also when you're going, so kind of think of seasons. So like obviously you wouldn't do a ski trip in summer, and some tramping trips are a lot better in winter because they might be less crowded, something like that. Yeah. And also when like you might not want to schedule a trip over exam time or something like that because people probably aren't going to be too keen to come. Yeah. So, one of the really important things which you sort of found in the pamphlet is before you go anywhere, you should fill out one of these, which is an outdoor intentions form. So, if it's a MUAC trip, the trip leader will do this. But if you're planning your own trip, like with your own friends tramping, you should still fill one of these out. It's really important. You can do it online and email it to someone. So basically, you fill it out, put all your details in, and then you'd send it to someone who's not on the trip. And that means if you come back really late or something like that, and then they're going to be able to alert search and rescue that you're missing. So yeah, basically it's just one of the things you do before you go is fill out an intentions form, give it to someone else, just a safety thing. Another safety thing, so Muick has a personal locator beacon that you can hire to go on trips. I think it's $5 a day or free on Muick trips. So one of these is if you get into really big trouble and need a helicopter, that you would activate it. So say you went tramping and you were out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere way out in the Rohini's, and then someone fell off a cliff and broke both of their legs. In a situation like that, you would use your locator beacon. If you're just getting a bit cold and tired and stuff, as long as you're not in a life-threatening situation, you probably shouldn't use it, because they can charge you a lot of money if you use it inappropriately. And the other note up there is why to take one of these is because it's based off satellites, because there's basically no cell phone reception in a lot of rural areas in New Zealand, or a lot of the places you'd go tramping or something, there'll be no cell phone reception. Health and safety stuff, kind of the boring stuff, but still really important. So a trip leader is responsible for everyone on the trip, and in that everyone should follow the instructions of the trip leader for their own safety as much as anything. You've got to consider New Zealand conditions. As Stacey said, the weather can be sunny one minute and rainy the next, or snowing or hailing. You never know what it's going to do. You've got to consider where you're going. So some New Zealand tracks, like the Tongariro Crossing, will be really nice, smooth, easy tracks, but a lot of backcountry tracks will be really rough. They'll be steep up and downs. So you've got to think of how long it's going to take you. It might only be 5 k's, but it might take you a whole day because it's really rough, things like that. And the most important thing is you've got to be planning for the unexpected. And so you've got to think, okay, say someone sprains their ankle on a tramp, what are you going to do? What's your backup plan? Or say the weather is really, really bad, what are you going to do? Instead of where you're going, which might be to the top of a hill, do you just go up a valley or something along those lines? And the other thing is know your limits. So that's kind of going along what I was saying before of you've got to know the group and their fitness and how far you can push yourself, because you don't want to get into trouble. So the aim of it is to try and prevent stuff before it happens. These things, they're RAMS forms. So basically these are for Muick trip leaders. They're to make you more aware of the hazards on trips before you go on the trip. So they also cover you under the Health and Safety Act, as they show that you have been actively thinking about what issues could happen and taking actions to try and avoid them. So as an example, I ran a kayaking trip in the weekend, and so just prevent everyone getting hypothermia, I made it compulsory that people had wetsuits to keep them warm. So that would just be an example of something to prevent something possibly happening. So you can see kind of an example for RAMS forms. And so I've got heaps of these if you want them. I've also got lots of examples of RAMS forms if you don't know how to fill them out, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, so basically respect the environment and other people and have fun. Thanks, Evie. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Okay, cool. So that concludes our evening. So thanks everyone for listening and sticking around. We'll take sign-ups now. So if you wanted to sign up for the mountain biking trip, go and see Chris. If you want to sign up